After 4 years of internal struggle during the Civil War, America entered the Gilded Age, 30 years of which America went through mass urbanizations, immigration, and corruption. The Industrial Revolution started the heavyweight urbanization movement, which led to a downward economic and social spiral that affected immigrants. More people started moving to cities, create horrible and crowded conditions. By 1900, the number of Americans living in urban areas have increased by 40%.
Slums were created by large amounts of immigrants and rural workers who came to the cities to find jobs and opportunities. The living conditions of those slums included poor sanitary facilities, impure water, uncollected garbage, unwashed bodies, and animal feces. The dumbbell tenant, 7 or 8 story high buildings were shallow, sunless, and smelly, and caused high-spreading diseases like lung blocked that caused the death of hundreds of people. Flop houses were available for cheap prices to starving and unemployed workers in the urban areas. New York City, America's largest, most diverse, and most unhealthy city, caused them to have the highest death rate. Unmanaged waste products produced epidemics of infectious diseases like smallpox, yellow fever, and malaria. Working conditions were horrible, overcrowded, and hazardous, with few restrictions regarding child labor. Employing children was the only way business owners could reduce expenses to maximize profits.
Corruption in the political government cannot be ignored during the Gilded Age. Urban political machines were organizations that worked to win elections and to exercise power. Dominating the Democratic Party in the late 19th to 20th century was Tammany Hall in New York City. A famous example of deception in the United States Congress was the King of Fraud by New York Sun Credit Mobilier and the construction company that built the Union Pacific Railroad, in which they overcharged the public for construction costs and bribed congressmen.
On the bright side, urbanization gave us new technology, like the innovation of the electric elevator, which set as foundation for the building of the skyscraper. Skyscrapers, developed by Louis Sullivan, provided more space for more people and workplaces in the cities. The invention of electric trolleys further propelled the city's limits, allowing more workers into urban centers. The metropolises attracted youngsters because they were the centers of entertainment. The middle class was often found lurking in department stores because they provided more jobs for workers, especially to women. Also during this age, education was strongly encouraged. Educational movement like the Chantanwa movement in 1874 provided educational gatherings, public lectures, and religious programs to the people. Public libraries were more available, thus becoming a sort of university for lower class people. The Morrill Act of 1862 and Hatch Act of 1887 helped tremendously in developing more colleges and universities by granting them land and money to support educations. Even women and African Americans found new opportunities for higher education in this era. The Gilded Age originated with philosophies that revolve around certain aspects of life. One such philosophy was the Puritan work ethic. The Puritans have emphasized hard work and diligence, believing that it will please God and worship Him. Others believe that this work ethic would lead to the rise of capitalism.
Another philosophy that arose was social Darwinism, the idea that certain people, nations, or races are more advanced or developed because some are more fit to survive than others. This idea was derived from the concept of natural selection or the survival of the fittest. Most social Darwinists believed in a laissez-faire economic and political system, a system where the government doesn't interfere with the affairs of businesses. They opposed laws and regulations that would help the poor because the poor was unfit and therefore not supposed to survive. In general, social Darwinists took a more biological approach to economics and politics. Social Darwinism was found in different forms as well. For instance, Horatio Alger created the idea of survival of the purest in his books surrounding the theme of rags to riches through virtue, hard work, and bravery.
In addition, religion became more prominent in society. During the social gospel religious movement, problems of society were intertwined with religion. Some issues that were addressed included child labor, temperance, and civil reform. Organizations were established to deal with these problems, such as the Young Women's and Men's Christian Association, who dealt with urban youth problems. Mary Baker Eddy created the idea of Christian Science that combined religion and science, saying that faith cures illness. Christian Science also encouraged people to use the Bible to guide their actions, becoming their ethics and morals.
Many different charity groups were organized as well to assist people in need. The YMCA and YWCA combined physical and other types of education with religious instruction. The Children's Aid Society took homeless children off the streets of New York and gave them homes with families and farms. Lastly, the Salvation Army set up soup kitchens and created a good name for themselves during the Great Depression when they provided shelter and food. Reactions to urbanization was found within the new generation of architects and planners and took form as the City Beautiful movement, occurring in the 1890s to the 1900s. Most new architecture copied European styles. However, Louis Sullivan established an authentic American style of architecture. Known as the father of the skyscraper, Sullivan mixed plain geometry and undisguised massing to create these modern structures. Landscape architecture also developed during the Gilded Age, where Frederick Olmsted took a huge part in the creation of a naturalistic landscape. Believing that the purpose was to affect the emotions, Olmsted emphasized special qualities of pastoral and picturesque scenery. The first immigrants who come to America were in the pursuit of religious freedom. The majority of this group were Puritan and Pilgrims. An insurge of newcomers into the United States created an anti-immigration sentiment among the native-born Americans that made life as an immigrant much harder to establish a living in America. Due to the racism against immigrants, they often seen as unwanted and unwelcome employees, thus narrowing their opportunity to flourish.
The immigration between 1776 to 1890 was called the Old Immigration. Most of the immigrants of this time period came from Northern and Western Europe, such as Ireland, Germany, and England. Ireland suffered through the potato famine, leaving many people poor and starving. Immigrating to America provided opportunities for these suffering Irish families.
However, this was not the case for all Irish, as evident to the statement by Representative Hudson. Now, what do we find in our large cities? Entire sections containing a population incapable of understanding our situations, with no comprehension of our national ideas, and for the most part incapable of speaking the English language. Foreign Language Information Service gives evidence that many Southern Europeans resent as an unjust discrimination the quota laws that represent America as showing race hatred and unmindful of its mission to the world. The reverse is true. America's first duty is to those already within her own shores. The newest immigration period lasted from 1890 to 1924. The largest portion of immigrants came from the eastern and southern regions of Europe. This would include countries like Poland, Russia, Romania, and Italy. They were hoping to escape the hardships in their homelands and hoped to make a better life for themselves in the United States, which was the land of opportunity. Immigrants would have to wait in long lines to be registered and receive medical exam on Ellis Island if they were found to be unhealthy and were not allowed to enter the United States. They were either detained and had to live on Ellis Island until they got better, or they were sent back to live on their native countries.
In 1890, the safety valve theory was developed. It stated that offering free land law enactment in the West would relieve employment pressure in the East. The theory turned out to be wrong because the tide swelled during good times and diminished in depressed periods when the safety valve should have been operating. Multiple refusal of immigrants had already developed before the Gilded Age in the form of nativism, and only further worsened.
One Asian American, Tommy Wong, illustrates, "They wouldn't hire you. What can you do for them? They wouldn't want you. They wouldn't even give you a job sweeping the floor. Why should they hire you when they can hire their own people?"
The Immigration Restriction League, founded in 1984, believed immigrants contributed to social problems such as urban crowding, poverty, crime, and labor unrest. This anti-immigration group, however, ended after one of its founders' death in 1921. Created from nativism, the Know-Nothing Party during the Gilded Age revived in a different form as the American Association in 1887. The organization urged votes against Roman Catholic candidates to ensure Anglo-American superiority continues.
The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 prohibited all further immigration from China until 1913. Exclusionists tried to strip native-borns of citizenship, but Supreme Court ruled in 1898 that the 14th Amendment guaranteed citizenship to all persons born in the U.S. Likewise, the National Origins Act restricted the immigrations of South and Eastern Europeans, using the 1890 census to determine the population of particular nationality group. The government then only allowed 2% of that population into the nation in 1924, further reducing the number of immigrants allowed into the U.S. by 150,000 per year in 1929. There were many theories for exactly how many immigrants came into America, one of them being the melting pot theory. When different ethnicities flooded into America, there was a mingling or blending of different cultures to create one unique American culture. This process was called assimilation. Moving to a new country was difficult on its own, but being asked to forget their culture proved to be even more difficult for families that crossed. Thankfully for the immigrants, there were people like James Adams and Ellen Starr who created the whole house system. The whole house system was made to relieve the transition into America by providing classes on middle class values, art, history, and literature. There were also services provided like public kitchens, public baths, and homeless shelters, which in turn helped lessen the effects of poverty.
There's another theory called the salad bowl theory. This means that when the immigration came to America, they still kept their culture. Instead of the blending effect, there was more of a mixing effect. The culture could easily be picked out. These theories are still disputed over today.